Hello and welcome to Overdrive. I'm Shireen Bhan. We're going to start the show with Bert, who's headed to one of our favorite destinations in India, but this time his travel arrangements are a tad bit lavish.
The automotive business is all about timing. When do you launch a new car? When do you announce plans for a new car? When do you begin development of a new car? Any significant event and its success depends on timing. In the automotive journalism business, that time invariably happens to be 4 in the morning. That's why it's 4 in the morning and we are driving off from Delhi to Leh in a convoy of Renault Koleos. What's so epic about a drive to Leh when it's been done to death? Well, for starters, the drive itself is epic. No matter how often the road from Delhi to Manali to Leh has been driven on. Every trip has a new and unique adventure to offer. You probably have seen an elaborate story on the Renault Koleos on the show previously, but that story had a difference. It was conducted in the plains. This SUV is now going to an all-new height, where we will try and establish just how good this Koleos is in one of the harshest environments on the planet. Thanks to the early morning start, we made good time, covered a lot of distance and got out of the mess that Delhi gets into during the rush hour. The Koleos, meanwhile, was pretty competent and comfortable throughout, be it in the city limits of Delhi or the highway to Chandigarh. And even once we started climbing uphill, comfort is certainly one of its biggest USPs. Our drive from Delhi all the way up to Leh has been split into 3 parts. On day 1, we're going to drive from Delhi all the way up to Manali, where we break for the night. The next morning, we're going to head across the Rohtang Pass and break at Jispa, where we will get acclimatized to the environment. On day 3, we're going to drive from Jispa all the way up to Leh. It's going to be a mad dash and it's going to be pretty exhausting as well because of the distance and the extreme altitudes that we will cover on that single day. It's going to be very, very arduous. Himachal Pradesh, known for its magnificent rivers, its lush pine forests, and of course, the mighty Himalayan range, is easily one of the best places to visit in all of India. It's certainly number 2 on my list. As for number 1, well, we are headed there tomorrow. It's Ladakh. So what we're doing here in Manali is lightening up the cars, taking all the stuff that we carried all the way from Delhi. We're now putting it into a dedicated pickup which will trail us all the way up to Leh. The cars are lighter, they move faster, we're a lot more comfortable, and of course there's a lot more space for all our activities up there. And you can bet there's going to be a lot of fun we're going to indulge in when we get into the hills. In these conditions, diesel vehicles have a tough time trying to cope with the altitude, the cold and the lack of oxygen, which is necessary for optimum combustion. The after effects are usually frozen diesel lines, and when the cars are running, they run fuel-rich mixtures, which means bad fuel efficiency. In our road test story on the Koleos, we spoke about how the suspension was firm, but there was an immense amount of body roll in this car. So it almost felt like a boat. But we've come here into the hills, we've driven across from the most horrible road you have seen anywhere in the country, especially the road leading up to Rohtang Pass. But the Koleos, well, she's turned into a completely different beast. It's as if she hit the delete button on that past history of hers, wiped that slate clean. There's a new character, there's a new meaning to the suspension. It just gobbles up everything. Doesn't even spit out the bones, just chew the whole time. Phenomenal. Fortunately, most of the roads in this region are improving. Not as quickly as in other places, but yes, when these roads are ready and the tunnel between Manali to Keelong is done, the drive all the way to Leh promises to be smooth and without any hiccups.
This is what keeps bringing me back to Ladakh every year. But it's not just the stunning majesty of this landscape, it's also the sound of, and can you hear it? It's the sound of silence. This place is as far as it can get from the maddening crowd.
Our drive on day 3 from Jaspa to Leh was a distance of about 350 kilometers. It was also the toughest and most challenging for both vehicle and driver, as we had 5 mountain passes to cross en route.
There's the Baralacha, the climb of the Gata loops, and then there's Tanglangla before we finally reach Leh. The Koleos, on the other hand, well, she's been doing well. In these cold conditions, in this harsh environment, well, she's soldiering on perfectly. All her conditions are just absolutely on the ball. She's adapted to these conditions very nicely, and she's shown a completely different character from what I've driven in the city.
Eventually, we began hitting a few problems. The altitude wasn't just getting to us, but also affecting the engine. While the rest of the mechanical parts of the Koleos were beginning to shine, the Koleos engine was beginning to fade.
So we finally managed to wipe clean the bug in the machine. Koleos DPF, that's the diesel particulate filter, is very sensitive to bad fuel all through the drive. We didn't have an issue until we started climbing up Baralacha. It's taken us about an hour. We cleaned out the system. We're finally on our way. We finally made it across Baralacha. And I'm just hoping, if my fingers are crossed, that it doesn't strike us again, or it's going to kill more of our time.
As expected, the high altitude and tough terrain took their toll on the convoy. And it was dark by the time we rolled into Leh, where I handed the car over to Sandeep for the rest of the journey.